Thank you for again coming to see another in the series of introductions to the all-natural meanings discussed in Meaning in the Multiverse, a skeptic's guide to a loving cosmos. This is number 3 of 8 in the series, the Qualia of God Meaning. I want to just briefly explain all of the different meanings that we talk about in Meaning in the Multiverse and explain where they came from and how to think about them as a whole unit. First, these are metaphysical speculations. These are this is not the metaphysics of New Agey, crystal, or other sort of concepts, but this is the philosophical metaphysics, where metaphysics means beyond where the science is at now. So these are all backed by present science, but the way to think about these is this is likely where the science is going to be in 100 years or maybe 500 years if things sort of progress through the use of the scientific method in that course of time. And so again, the idea is not to replace science, that diligent use of the scientific method to over time continue to really work the problem of the way that existence is. But this is a method to try and understand where the science and where the nature of the mind can take us for a better examined life, a more transcendent experience or flowing with existence than we currently have right now. All of these meanings are all natural. We are not going to look to God or gods or goddesses to understand the meaning in the multiverse. The multiverse is such a dynamic and awe-inspiring place and concept that we don't need gods and other imaginings of the human mind when it comes to the nature of experience or the actual quantities of existence. We will talk about universal meanings, and we will also talk about meanings that are prevalent in the number of minds that they reach in an environment, but they do not come directly from the universe, and so they are only prevalent personal meanings. So that might be that there is a conscious experience, but it is not transcendent from some larger universal experience. And so as many minds as that touches, it still is not going to connect up into a universal meaning. And then finally, we're going to talk about those meanings that are for the multiverse, or that we are working on for the multiverse, or those that are grace to us from the multiverse. The concepts and meaning of the multiverse come from the various metaphysics that are the section headings, and one of the major metaphysics that we look into is the Metaphysic of Idealism, and that's where we're going to go with the Qualia of God Meaning that we're discussing in this chapter. And idealism is that the universe is fundamentally made up of consciousness or information. In this case, we're going to talk about consciousness as being the fundamental nature of the universe and not something like matter or energy. There is scientific backing for this that is coming out right now in the idea of conscious naturalism, which is a great stride in understanding first perception and then the interaction of conscious entities as actually making up the fabric of reality itself. We are going to be talking about the meaning that comes from a reality that is at its core fundamentally consciousness in this item, the Qualia of God Meaning. This is the illustration that best shows the Qualia of God Meaning. So what is to consider here is that, like your current stream of consciousness, you have a perception of your seat, and or if you're standing, of how you're standing, and a feeling of your body map. You have thoughts that are going on. You are hearing my voice right now, and so you have the perception of hearing. You have cognition going on. You have thoughts that are taking you either deeper into the material or distracting you from the material. All of these are parts of your conscious thought, your body map, your emotional state, thoughts that you are having, the visual perception that you are having and taking in this picture. All of those are part of your stream of consciousness. The idea of the Qualia of God is that the universe itself, or the multiverse, is a conscious entity in the Qualia of God state. And as opposed to the panpsychic cog in the machine meaning, which was discussed in the second of the series, this considers our life, the nature of our experience, to be just part of the stream of consciousness, one qualia in the entire universe's experience. So this supremely conscious entity is having conscious experience, and each of those different qualia, each of those quanta of conscious experience are our experience, or the experience of what it is like to be a dendrite, or the experience of what it is like to be an atom or a bat. So from the text, the definition of the Qualia of God Meaning is, instead of focusing on the physical components of a panpsychic universe, the Qualia of God Meaning imagines what it might be like to be an instance of experience, a qualia presencing into the consciousness of the universe. Think of your own stream of consciousness and imagine that any of those qualia could be an idealistic entity all its own. The meaning gets close to the modern conception of God, who is preceded by the Word and who can manipulate you just as your imagination creates entire worlds when you are reading a suggestive book. So try out this experiment. Try and picture in front of this video on your screen, try and picture a large strawberry that is the exact size and shape of your screen. Take a second to see if you can superimpose this idea of a strawberry in some way in your consciousness. And just like reading a suggestive book, where you're creating the entire world, the entire landscape for the characters inside of that book, for the historical components inside of that nonfiction, you can create entire worlds in your consciousness that just come inside of your experience, like your experience of reading a book. And the same very well might be happening inside of an all-natural universe that is conscious, and where consciousness is the root of the fundamental nature of all of reality. Again, from the text, the idealist's God, even stripped of superpowers, is an awesome entity capable of experiencing multi-dimensions and supersymmetries, an entity possibly aware of its subcomponents' consciousness, e.g. us, and with agency to manipulate those lesser experiences, but not the ability to communicate what it is doing with our mind, either through experience or through existence. Unless, of course, that is all that belief or faith in God is, the weakly signaled experiential leak between something abundantly more complexly conscious and those tuned in to receive it. Like faintly hearing a lullaby in a language you don't understand above the roar of a seashore and still having the experience of wanting to sleep, there is no, quote, knowing the mind of God, end quote, for the mind of God, just like any other mind, is only knowable, that it is only like something for that entity. But transmitting experience, even to subcomponent experiences, might be akin to reaching for an object even without being able to articulate why. The mind of the idealistic God is split, fractured into a panpsychic myriad of subcomponent consciousness, each only fully experienced by that entity, each largely unaware of its neighbors or its place as a single qualia in the ultimate mind of God. And of course, I use the word God here in a very tongue-in-cheek nature, but we understand this consciousness of the universe as, very godlike in its ability to either manipulate or at least understand its subcomponents and to produce from its consciousness all of the other entities that are its single qualia, but that are our entire experience. And so here again, we are faced with an understanding of our own improvements that we can have in thinking about the Qualia of God meaning, in thinking about ourselves and our entire experience as a single experiential entity, an experiential quanta in the mind of a supremely conscious universe. In that entity, can any of the qualia of your experience rise to the level of being completely understood inside of your experience? And the answer to that is in mindfulness. You can take and experience any single qualia to as great a degree as you possibly can in that mindful experience, and so that is potentially something that you can again do to impact a universe that is generating your whole experience as just one component of the Qualia of God. So if you are the redness of red, if you completely experience the redness of red in a meditation sit, if you completely are at flow with your musical instrument in a concert setting, in flowing with experience, you might be able to impact and have that conscious experience rise to the level of transcendence. And the same might be said for your whole life's work of mindful experience and flowing with existence to impact the nature of the universe itself as one qualia, as the redness of red for the entire universe. This and other meanings can be found in Meaning in the Multiverse, which you can pre-order today and is coming out on the 12th of February 2021 on Darwin Day. You can pre-order those from justinaharnish.com/shop. And the purchase price and genres are available there for you. I want to thank you and wish you to continue to come back and look at more of the meanings from Meaning in the Multiverse in later sessions. Thank you.